It was one of those hot, muggy summer days, the kind that sticks to you like lint on a candy left in a kid's pocket. I got an urgent message from an old pal of mine, Jackie Burke. She was directing a play and needed some help with some props and special effects. The play was right up my alley, Sleuth, a mystery thriller by Peter Schaefer.
Well, of course, we had to make everyone believe that the gun we were using was real. So we needed to explode the mug and the figurine, and it had to look as if they had been shot by a gun.
Guns I know about. This job required a special touch. Even though I was down on my luck, I waived my usual fees and got right on the case. We had a week and a half to find or make a statue and a mug, and to rig them up to explode on cue.
We had about 5 people searching through town trying to find an appropriate mug and appropriate shepherdess that also would fit the time period and also look like priceless antiques, because the show was set in a very rich man's house.
There were 11 performances plus rehearsals. This meant we needed to find about 15 shepherdesses and mugs. Dirt cheap. In a town like this, that'd be like trying to find a flatfoot who obeys traffic laws.
There was a decision made to actually make these, to cast a mold and to create these.
It was Friday, June 24th. I finally tracked her down. She was a real angel. I knew I could mold her, but I didn't know if I could do it in time. Tech rehearsals were scheduled for the following Monday. I built up layers of rubber latex on the angel. Each layer had to be dried with a hairdryer before I could put on the next one. I was doing the same thing to the lamb. By the time I was done, I'd have a mold, and out of that mold I could make as many copies from plaster of Paris as I wanted. Finally, by Saturday evening, the mold was ready. I used duct tape to close up the hole in the back where the wings on the angel had been. I poured in the plaster of Paris. It worked. All I could do now was wait for the plaster to set up. Meanwhile, Jackie decided to take matters into her own hands with the mug.
What we did, because we had no idea what we were doing, I went to the craft store and looked around, and I had previously that week been making figurines with my daughter with a stuff called Model Magic, and I knew I could work with it, so I bought the Model Magic, which is really a kid's toy, and I bought a cylinder that I thought was approximately the right size, and I brought it into the theater, into the backstage, and I fashioned the Model Magic around this cylinder, and I fashioned the handle, which was supposed to be kind of triangular. And it needed to be a face, and it needed to have a hat, and I gave the mug all of these features, and then we named him Fred.
By Sunday morning, the shepherdess, Mary, was out of the mold. The first stage was completed, but I still had a long way to go. Even as sitting overnight, the plaster of Paris hadn't set completely. It was clear that Mary was going to have to be rigged to be reused after each show.
The mold was made, and the angel ended up not having any wings when she was recast as our shepherdess statue. And I think there was actually a sheep that we nicknamed Dolly that was created to actually create the illusion that this was actually a shepherdess.
The lamb was smaller, a lot smaller. This meant the plaster set up quicker and I could make a lot more copies of it. We nicknamed the lamb Dolly. Monday, June 26th, just an hour before the tech rehearsal. I had sculpted new arms out of modeling clay and given her a new hat. Bill Simpson, the set designer, rigged up a hairdryer to speed up the curing of the clay. Wednesday, June 28th, 10 p.m., dress rehearsal was over. Mary was finally ready to be duplicated. I set her up in a bed of alginate, a material used to make casting impressions. Thursday, June 29th, less than 9 hours to opening. I decided to keep things simple. Mary's head would be blown off and the body would stay intact. So I cut the head off and reattached it temporarily with a couple of lumps of clay. quick cover-up job to hide the seams, a couple of coats of white paint, and the doll was good to go. A piece of fishing line attached to her head ran back through a hole backstage. A stagehand under the stairs would run the effects. So much for Mary. Fred wasn't so lucky. His ugly mug had to get demolished each night. We rigged a loop of string through his nose and ran it back through a hole backstage as well. 6 p.m., less than 2 hours to opening, and we still didn't know if Fred was going to break. Bill Simpson rigged up a test fixture so we could try different ways to smash Fred.
Just ignore the man behind the curtain.
4, 3, 2, 1, bang! Nothing. Oh, it just
3, 2, 1, bang!
again.
Go.
Break.
Yeah! Success at last. But as anybody who's worked in live theater knows, things don't always go right.
The statues that were actually cast were too thick to break on contact, because the idea was to actually rig up pieces of string or fishing wire to the back of it, drill a hole through the flat that was behind it, and basically yank the statue with the fishing wire, and that would actually break the statue.
Freddie didn't always break every night.
Proletarian pomposity. Well, you might say good shot. Down with all deviationist reactionary dress and shepardism. I see. Oh, what jolly fun this is. Oh. Well, that was nearly a good shot. Pomposity. What is it?
Well, it's deeply embarrassing. You know, there's nothing funny about it. The audience laughs for all the wrong reasons. You wonder why you're doing the show in the first place. You know?
I'm no stooge. I don't like being a laughingstock, so I worked on refining the process. Mary started cooperating, but Fred was a tough cookie. He refused to crack.
Accent to his brother be of good cheer.
Proletarian pomposity. Might say good shot. Nothing. Down with all deviationist reactionary dreads and shepardism.
But when he did, it was quite spectacular.